4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
Good evening, Johnson County. Welcome to this week's episode of The Breakdown. And I'm your host, Greg Cooper. And here on The Breakdown, we deep dive local politics, mainly school boards and city councils. But any and all Johnson County politics are on the table. We air most Thursdays at 5 p.m. You can visit the JoCo Community Radio Facebook page to watch shows live or to see replays. Also, you can go to www.jococommunityradio.com, where Apple and Android apps are available. Tune in to get the ins and outs of Johnson County, Texas. Today on The Breakdown, we have two of the three recently elected, soon to be sworn in, board of directors for the Central Appraisal District here in Johnson County, Mr. Duaine Goulding and Mr. John Wood.
Hello.
Ms. Amy Lingo is traveling today, and she could not join us, and she will be missed. Also, we're joined by Mr. Craig Hundley, moderator and admin of the growing Facebook group, Texas Nonpartisan Political Group from Horse Barn Property Tax Reform, or more specifically known as the Horse Barn. And before we get to tonight's guest, we want to do a quick recap of 2023 and what The Breakdown has opined on so far. 2023, as we wind down here, it's been a whirlwind of a year, and The Breakdown was born earlier this spring. So why are we here? Why did The Breakdown start? Well, it's basically heavy-handed censorship on social media platforms. Some local Facebook community groups would censor speech that the moderators and or admins disagreed with. Reality is the social media is a modern-day news source for many, and it simply cannot be ignored. May and November election times were the worst examples of this behavior, and The Breakdown, this shows a direct result of that censorship. Some local community Facebook groups frequently made it difficult for local political conversations to occur. Simply put, if they didn't like what you were saying, they censored it, sometimes banned the individuals with an opposing political view. The Breakdown was started to combat this, to offer a platform for all political speech. I try to host it in a way that sheds light on local politics, and I really want to offer it as an avenue for all viewpoints. Some have taken advantage of this and some have not, but make no mistake about it, all viewpoints are welcome here on The Breakdown. We started in the spring of 2023, and the first thing that we started tackling was school board elections, school bond elections, and city council elections. We hosted some school board candidates, and we discussed mainly the Godly ISD billion-dollar bond, and began to cover some city council elections, mainly the Godly city councils and the arrest of a Godly city council woman. Over the summer, most things turned to all things godly as we detailed the federal lawsuit that former councilwoman Jen Thompson brought. This is pending, and we'll be reporting on a lot of this after the first of the year. We suspect as the lawsuit's moving forward. Towards the fall and the end of the year, the November elections reared, and there was a lot of issues that the 88th legislative session in Austin over the spring had put into action that was on the ballot, and they offered some semblance of tax reform. We talked about the Joshua ISD bond election. That was we were close to supporting that, but it wasn't quite tight enough for us to support. And Godly again, mainly the ISD post school board election bond. ISD in place roadblocks stifling free speech via local policy changes. The big one, other than property taxes, was the ISD had issues regarding background checks. This background check thing is going to rear its head in 2024, and it resulted in a convicted prostitute and escort being hand-selected by the school district and the superintendent to serve on many of the steering committees for the ISD. We still don't have an answer, and one of three things happens regarding these background checks. The woman either completed a background check, and it was clear that's a problem. She completed a background check and it was ignored. That's a bigger problem. Or she did not complete a background check at all. All are bad. And we have to shed light on this background process and the fact that the ISDs can't ignore some volunteers and allow them to volunteer. The reality is the Ed Code, we're just finding out, has some exceptions that allow volunteers to actually not go through the background process. And Godly ISD definitely owes us some answers onto what happened regarding that. However, in the fall, no story has garnered up as much attention as taxes, property taxes to be specific, and this leads us into tonight's show. State legislature provided relief, again, via the 88th legislative session, but some of the taxing entities are using that relief as a mechanism to tax us, the people, more, finding creative ways to try to convince the taxpayer that the Austin-driven relief via legislative action should be given right back to the taxing entities via higher local property taxes. This was very evident in the Joshua ISD bond proposal, and it was a creative way to try to convince the average taxpayer that they would pay the same by approving their tax increases to counter the legislative relief. Here on the breakdown, we disagree with that. We are pro lower taxes across the board and a higher level of transparency and accountability of local governance, especially school districts. School districts account for 2/3 to 3/4 of the property tax burden we pay, and it's just unsustainable, and major reform is needed regarding these ISD taxes. But enough on 2023. As we close this year out, we end 2023 with the property tax issue once again, specifically the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. And tonight's guests, they need no introduction here on the breakdown. They visit us a few times now. And we have, again, Mr. Craig Hundley, Mr. Duaine Goulding, and Mr. John Wood. Mr. John Wood and Mr. Duaine Goulding were recently elected, and Craig Hundley, his group really helped bring awareness to this. So good evening, guys. Who wants to start off on how things are going so far since the campaign's over, so to speak?
Well, let me bring up one point. You say we've been elected. We haven't been informed officially.
Oh, okay.
We know we have the votes, but I have received no communication that I've been officially elected to the board.
None that I'm aware of.
And my understanding is they have until January 1 to notify us.
Okay. Well, nothing like
So
waiting till the last minute.
Well, I'm you can read that a lot of different ways. I think they're probably just still a little stunned that we were elected, and they were going to wait till the last minute, I would assume, to let us know.
Craig, what do you think about that? It's kind of par for the course for you've been fighting this battle for close to 5 years now. It hasn't been easy.
And it's about par way things are going. They're supposed to be sworn in January the 18th, and we're going to try to get word out to everybody to show up and support them. But I'm sure they're going to be okay.
So basically, December 15th was the last time the taxing entities could cast votes. You guys secured that a little earlier. We'll get into how that specifically went. And then there was one last meeting with the outgoing board of directors. And then again, everyone pay attention, January 18th, we're waiting on a time at the Central Appraisal District office down in Cleburne for Johnson County. Ms. Amy Lingo, who's not here today, Mr. John Wood and Mr. Duaine Goulding will be sworn in, barring some more shenanigans, and we'll get into some of the shenanigans they're pulling here later. But first, let me congratulate you guys.
Thank you very much.
A heck of a battle, and nice early Christmas gift, I'm supposing, for you guys. Tell us how you guys felt about the process. Or Mr. Wood, what do you?
Okay. First, kudos to the coach. I call Craig the coach. He was there to answer questions, do homework, set up meetings. So I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And I also appreciate a whole lot of city councils, some school districts, and I'm going to promise right now that I am working for them and they will be informed. We're going to drive them crazy with keeping up with what's going on the board, because sadly, the board members didn't really get the memo that they had to talk to anybody about getting the votes, because in the past they didn't. And so they were pretty upset. Would you say that, well, would you say that the feeling for the last meeting that we went to, just
The CAD board meeting.
CAD board meeting in the audience, that they looked displeased?
They were extremely unhappy.
And that's sad. That made me sad.
It is. We're a representative government, and you win some, you lose some. And the bottom line is you should embrace the process.
And I'm going to be a good CAD board member. I'm going to dispose myself in an orderly fashion. I'm going to look after the schools, because that's mainly where the taxes go. And I'm also going to keep everybody informed and look out for the taxpayers. I think all those things are important, and that's why they hired me.
And is that the reception that you pretty much, or is that how you feel it pretty much went, that they were pretty much shell shocked with the results?
I would totally agree. I concur with everything John said. I think initially they were in this, the way we've always done it mode. We'll get reelected. Nobody knows. Nobody's paying any attention. Nobody cares. And then by the time we got far enough into that process, I think they kind of had this moment where it's like, oh my God, we're going to lose control here.
Very late on.
And it was too late, frankly, for them. I will say that at the Burleson ISD meeting, you were there. Two of the incumbents spoke, but neither of them had a plan.
No.
Neither of them had a vision. And we have a plan. We have a vision. The central component of our vision is transparency, so that all the taxing entities, all the taxpayers, which, by the way, everybody knows they're composed of taxpayers, the taxing entities are, they all need to see the CAD as an open book, not a secret society. And I'm committed, John's committed, and Amy's committed to open it up and make it available, make information available so people know what's going on. And some of it is simple stuff. Like, we will, at the earliest possible time, have the meetings, the board meetings, agendas, time, place, location, everything on the website so people can access it and see what the agenda is and see when we're meeting. And I would like for the public to attend.
Another thing you can do is record them too, if they have a capability of it. Anybody can go record open meetings, but if they do have a capability, I know that helps. Having a lot of school board meetings and city council meetings on the same day, so I miss a lot doing a local politics show. So I have to review a lot of those. So that's another avenue too. I don't know if they have the capabilities of it, but
well, any attendee can record these meetings.
Correct, yeah. I know I would definitely host them on my site. We'll talk about a site that I have to host some videos for the future, because the reality is it's such a confusing, frustrating, difficult to understand process that no one's ever had to answer for. And it's just wonderful to see, local citizens get involved and run with the intent of making this process more open and transparent. So thank you. I can't thank you guys enough.
And the process is changing.
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Senate,
talk about that. It's important. The process is changing.
Senate Bill 2 was passed by the 88th legislature, and then passed. It was one of the constitutional amendments that we voted on that passed. And it increases the membership of the CAD board to a minimum of 9 people. Three that will be elected by the taxpayers in the May election, local elections in May, and they will take their seat on July 1. Now, when I started running, I thought I was running for a 2-year term. Turns out we're running for a 1-year. We ran for a 1-year term. So this gets to start over thanks to Senate Bill 2 next fall. And then they want to stagger, and I agree with what the legislature did in regard to this. They want to stagger the terms so that the 5 positions that they call appointed by the taxing entities, 3 of them will be elected 1 year, and the other 2 will be elected 2 years later, and they'll serve 4-year terms. So this is the transition to that model.
And you guys, just having been elected, are the ones that have to run again and fall.
And I didn't realize that until I knew I'd been elected, and then I started poking around, looking at stuff, and Senate Bill 2, and then it was like, we get to do this all over again this fall.
Wow.
No, it's only going to be 3 out of the 5, though. Correct? That get 1-year terms?
No,
No?
all 5 of us have 1-year terms.
Okay.
And then this fall, the taxing entities get to pick, and I forget 2, 1, 3 of the other, to serve another additional year, and then the others to serve 3 years.
So the bottom line is, in the May, taxpayers are going to have an opportunity for the first time ever to have a say in who's elected.
And they will vote in 3 additional people that are not appointed by the taxing entities.
And then you guys will go through the same rigmarole next November as you did this November.
Yeah.
Or some of
Yes.
you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the elephant in the room, Craig, who are you putting on the ballot in May?
I
How's
can't
that?
tell you yet, and I've
All
already
right.
got 4 people.
Okay. So, all right.
On the
So
ballot.
you're already worked. Okay. So you're ahead of
And
the game.
we've
as
got
usual.
some great people.
Okay, good. Cause yeah, we definitely don't want to leave that up just to chance, so to speak. So
No.
you guys have made such good progress. You don't want to have it turn.
And let the voters know the issues and what's going on. And because, to be perfectly candid, I don't know what's going on the board. I don't know the scope of what I can do and what can't do yet. But as I learn, then I'll share.
And that's what you guys, one of the main platforms you guys ran on was bringing this process and this transparency so everybody understands what's going on.
So this board is going to expand from 5 to 9.
Okay.
So you got the 5 appointed by the taxing entities, 3 elected by the public, and the tax assessor collector, who has been a non-voting member of the board, becomes a voting member of the board.
But he's elected by the public, and I support him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's fine. Yeah. If I mean, and I think I think
it's a better model than we've had.
Yeah, I think so too. It sounds like it definitely can be. I have a big problem with the taxing entities voting. I think that, and I hope I can be proven wrong in this. I really do. I really hope that I can be proven wrong. I hope that the transparency you guys bring will prove what I'm about to say wrong. But the way that it's set up now is by the taxing entities appointing or electing people. It allows them cover to increase their budget at an exponentially faster rate than growth and inflation. And it gives them cover and it gives them shade. And they're putting these people in these positions. I hope I'm wrong when I say that that's what it sure looks like. Yeah, and I really do. And if I will, I'll be the first one to come on here and say I was wrong.
Okay. The board of directors has nothing to do with the appraisals.
They appoint the person that drives that.
Yes, they do.
And
they do.
Yeah,
What they do is they govern the CAD, and they make sure they comply with the state laws and regulations. They appoint the chief appraiser. They approve the appointment of other people for the chief appraiser. But the board members cannot get involved in the audit process at all. In fact, it's a Class C misdemeanor if we try to.
And okay, fair enough. And like I said, I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope I am.
Yeah.
But it looks bad the way it's set up, the way that they don't want to communicate, and the way that everyone is watching taxing entities 6 months after people's appraisals come out, watching taxing entities champion them lowering the tax rate as a win when people are actually paying a lot more. It looks really bad. And like I said, I will be the first one to come on here and say I was wrong. And I hope I am, because I don't like it when I don't like it when stuff like that's going on. So I really hope I'm wrong. So Craig, what did you have to say?
First of all, I'm not elected, but you're not wrong. Okay. We'll leave it at that. And I'd like for you to talk to John a little more, because John and Amy were at the CAD board meeting, and we had quite a following come up there with us. And I'd like for John to tell you what they've done and what happened.
Okay. First off, they weren't expecting the attendance that they got.
So real quick, to get people caught up. So after Mr. Goulding, Mr. Wood, and Ms. Lingo were elected by the taxing entities, after a massive campaign of outreach and a lot of individuals getting involved, and a lot of the audience of this show hopefully helping out too. You guys went to the last meeting
It's the old
Yes.
of the
board.
outgoing board and showed up there. They were not prepared for the
No.
volume of people you had there. So
You
take
know,
it from there.
There was seating for 5.
Okay.
It was
Yes.
about 5.
We filled up the hallway, we filled up the room, we filled up the stairway, and a lot of downstairs.
And it was a tough climb for the older folks because it was up a narrow set of stairs.
They're not set up for it. They're not ADA compliant.
I know that part of the problem with this is that they would never been posting any of their agendas online.
No.
I had reached out and they actually got back to me and says that, well, we don't have to comply with that. Now I'll contest that later, and I disagree with that. But that was their answer to why aren't you guys posting this?
And honestly, I don't know yet. But I'm going to get to understanding the bottom of that.
Well, you can always choose to do it. Hopefully you guys will make the conscious decision to do it. There's no reason to hide it. Yeah.
That's one of the top priorities.
Yeah, I'm absolutely before. I want it in a location where, you know, there's adequate seating for a reasonably large group of people, because governments should never work in a vacuum.
I agree.
You can take a look all around us and see what the vacuum's done. Now, I'm not saying anything, no aspersions on the people on the board. You know, they hung in there. They did what they thought was right. And I don't know, I don't know the ins and outs yet. But again, I promise to make everything as accessible as possible and be the speaker of what I see and how it works. That old government worked a different way than new government. And because the American people have been woken up by
Yes, sir.
some problems, and without other citizens getting involved and being the people that work the boards, because it's no fun. I mean, what's fun about it? You sit there and you argue over stuff. I mean, it's no fun, and it's complicated. But so what? So what? I had a great career. I've been gifted by our Lord. It's my time to pay back.
Good for you. And thank you for that.
And that's how it works in my head and a lot of other people's, because there's a lot of nice people in this world.
Well, I know that I know some of you guys saw the absolute grandiose facilities down there at Godly ISD. They love to brag about it. Maybe they'll loan you their facilities if you need an ADA compliant facility, because they got plenty of awesomeness.
Yeah, we can
down
bring
there.
elephants.
Yeah, you can bring all kinds of stuff down there.
Snack bars and everything.
So, real quick before we get to break here, let's talk about just one or two highlights of the positiveness of some of the taxing entities and how they voted. I know you guys ended with Mansfield ISD.
They were wonderful.
You didn't have to go down there.
No.
And tell us a little bit about Mansfield ISD, how you guys were received, Mr. Goulding.
When I was the first speaker, and in the interest of full disclosure, I told them that the makeup of the board had been determined. Their votes would not change the makeup of the board. But I also suggested to them that their votes would send a message. It would send a message to their taxpayers. It would send a message to the insiders at the CAD that they support openness. They support the transparency that we're advocating. And so they split their votes between me and Amy. And
100%.
didn't need to, but what really was notable for me was the comments that most of the trustees made.
What were some of those?
Well, the one that I remember the best, she said, "We have never seen anyone from Johnson County ever." And they're one of the 10 biggest taxing
big.
entities. She said, "We've never seen anyone from Johnson County. And when we've asked questions or requested things, we usually don't get a response. So for you guys to show up is monumental." And I appreciated that. And I think they appreciated us. And she said, "You didn't have to come tonight."
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the fact that you didn't have to come tonight and how they appreciated that. and your take on, hey, your vote sends a message. A lot of elected officials, they really don't like to have to take a vote on something that will not pass or not be approved. And the reality is you're setting as an elected official, you're setting a tone, and you're setting basically your record for how you would vote. It's not about necessarily what could get passed or would not get passed, but them doing that, as you said, it sends a clear message. They didn't even have to take a vote because it didn't even matter. They could have basically abstained, so it doesn't matter.
Well, let me go.
But,
The other thing Mansfield did different than any other taxing entity, they decided that they don't know anything about the candidates in Johnson County, and same thing in Tarrant County because they're in both. So they appointed a committee, and the guy that chaired that committee reached out to us, and I met with him and talked to him and told him about our platform, what we're running for, the transparency, and so forth and so on. And he said, we've never had any conversations like this with anyone else from Johnson County. They made an overt effort to research the candidates, and the only ones that responded were us.
Good on Mansfield for doing that, for taking
Absolutely.
it seriously and for understanding the tone.
And there's an extra plus to this night too. But so I was helping a gentleman in Tarrant County, also a gentleman by the name of Gary Lasada.
Tarrant County running for the board of directors up
Yes.
there. Okay.
And while I was there, I went ahead and asked for votes for him. And when we were leaving that night, and they gave him quite a few votes, I called Gary up. I said, well, I got you some more votes. He said, how many? And I told him. He said, well, I'm planning my next year. And I said, why? He said, I just got seated.
Well, and I guess we're going to start off after we do our advertisement of the next segment. We'll start off with, are you trying to reproduce this, make it algorithmic for other counties? So we'll be back with the breakdown with the new Central Appraisal District elected board of directors after the break.
Hey, travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Welcome back to the breakdown. We air Thursdays at 5 p.m. And this is our last show of 2023. We hope everybody had a great Christmas. Everyone's gearing up for an awesome New Year's Eve.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's getting close, isn't it? So we're here with Mr. Duaine Goulding, Mr. John Wood, and Mr. Craig Hundley. And before we get back into our segment, we're going to have some breaking news here. But before that, JoCo Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneInJoco.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store, check out our lineup and more at www.jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844-TEX-HAIL. That's 844-839-4245. And be sure to dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com. Keep you nice and toasty in this colder weather. And before we get back to our guests, we're going to break some news here on the breakdown. And basically, we will be changing names of the show and expanding a little bit in 2024. We will no longer be known as The Breakdown. Moving forward, we are rebranding and incorporating some resources to assist us with messaging and delivery. Why are we changing names? Well, we want to streamline the intent of the show and bring better resources in line. We want to offer collaboration and more outreach to the community. And across the state, we want to be able to collaborate with other groups like this board of directors is going to try to replicate in other counties what they've done here, because the issues pretty much are very similar. While the specifics and the personalities involved may be different, the issues are pretty much the same. Also, we're going to call it Texas Transparency Project. That'll be the new name of the show, Texas Transparency Project. And what led me to that name? Well, while sitting at a Godly City Council meeting, I watched an elected official from Godly ISD School Board named Terry Goodlow. And Terry Goodlow, an elected official, been there for a long time with the ISD, she stood up at the city council and she talked about how much she hated the word transparency.
Whoa.
And how citizens should just trust their elected officials to do the right thing. So, Miss Terry Goodlow, due to your hating of the word transparency, it drove us to change the name to Texas Transparency Project. And we will have a website. That website is texastransparencyproject.org. We will have a Facebook group, Texas Transparency Project. We will be transitioning to Twitter as well, and that will be at TX_transparency. And we will have a YouTube channel where I'd love to air the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors meetings if we can, if no one else can do that. That will be at Texas Transparency Project. And our 2024 focus, well, we're going to start with the primary elections. For the first time, the District Attorney of Johnson County, Mr. Dale Hanna, he's going to be interviewed here on the new Texas Transparency Project show on 11th January. We did Mr. Tim Good. He's his opponent. And we're going to have Matthew Lucci on again.
Yes.
Those candidates are all going to run in the primaries. That'll be in first Tuesday of March. Then we'll transition into the May school board and school bonds elections and the city council elections and the new people-driven board of directors for the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors that'll be running. And we're going to talk a lot about the city of Godly. They got a lot of questions regarding their Godly Police Department and their federal lawsuit. And we're going to try to also branch out into the city of King. Mayor Parrish out there needs a little bit of help. We're going to see what we can do with her. And the big thing that we're going to, big series we're going to have is on ISD police departments. And while answering and being accountable only to the superintendent is a big issue with with school safety. So that's for 2024, Texas Transparency Project. We'll start running with that next week. But back to where we were, guys. We were talking about how Tarrant County pulled you back into it. Or Tarrant County, you got some votes for them. So the big question, are you trying to branch out into other counties?
Hey, every action has a reaction. And when we first went to Burleson just for nominations in the very beginning, we met this gentleman named Joe Bennett out of Tarrant County. And he works with Chandler Crouch, and everybody knows Chandler Crouch, one of my heroes. But he started teaching us about, go after all the votes. The one thing I never forgot, he said, the low-hanging fruit. Well, we had all these small entities, just had little handfuls of votes. We went after all of them. And
And we got some really nice
oh,
surprises.
made a lot of friends.
I mean, I got a really nice surprise.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Yes, you did.
So what do you guys think was the secret sauce and why you guys were received so well compared to years past? What led to the big shift in the taxing entities being open to some outsiders coming in?
It's taken over 4 years, and it's, you know, there's an old saying, it pays to be nice, make friends, educate, and that's what, you know, it's been happening for 4 years. And hey, they got the message.
So what kind of communication did you guys have with, for those aspiring to do what you guys did? What kind of communication and what was needed to get that extra little oomph to put you guys over the top?
Well, my point of view on it is a big part of the reason our message resonated. Every member of these taxing entities, trustees on a board, councilmen, they're taxpayers, and they don't know what goes on at the CAD. So when we get in front of them, and our platform is pretty simple, we were going to first and foremost focus on transparency, and then balance between the taxpayers and taxing entities, and then accountability, which every board has to deal with. That's a message they've never heard. And everybody, I think, that pays property tax is interested in knowing how the CAD works, what options they have. How can I work more effectively with the CAD to take advantage of exemptions or whatever I can to not pay more property tax than I have to? And I think everybody they don't want to pay more than they have to, but they're willing to fund their local governments. They're willing to fund their schools. So I think there was this appetite for openness. There's an appetite for the transparency. And most of the entities that gave us all their votes or the bulk of their votes, that's what I read in they were just excited that somebody's committed to open this thing up and let them know what's going on.
Now, also, you have to think about the basic arithmetic of taxes. So if you lower the tax rate, but you raise the appraised value of the property, you can pay more taxes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's the arithmetic that politicians don't want you to listen to.
Yep. Correct. I agree.
And I mean,
They don't want you to know it.
it's so
Well,
simple.
Well, I mean, and forget how much property taxes people pay. Like just set how much the fact that we pay property taxes aside. There's a lot of other reasons that overinflated appraisals could be an issue, other than how much taxes you pay. A lot of other reasons, but the reality is that we would not pay 1 cent in property taxes if people budgeted zero. We wouldn't pay anything. Wouldn't matter what our appraisals are. So this is it's a lot bigger problem that people are paying so much in property taxes. I firmly believe it's an out of proportion increasing budget comparative to growth and inflation that is driving up people actually paying more money.
Really?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely believe that.
May I?
absolutely believe it.
I just want to butt in. It's something I've learned, and I know this is true 100% because I witnessed with John speaking to the CAD board, and I'll butt in when he talks on that. But these high appraisals, these extreme appraisals came right here in our own backyard, and they didn't come from Austin. And the state comptroller's office confirmed it to me in a letter.
So explain to us how that went down.
Every entity, they love to play kick the can.
100%.
Yeah. Well, taxing entity, we lowered your tax rate. What did my taxes go up? Well, that's Central Appraisal District. Well, you go to Central Appraisal District and they said, well, you got to go to Austin.
Yeah, it's there's a saying in the military. It's
Closer,
called
John.
there's a saying in the military. It's called hide the. I'm not going to say what.
Sure.
And that's the kind of game that really drives me crazy.
No, I agree.
I didn't do it. He didn't do it. I didn't do it. He didn't do it.
But I know the game.
And so just for those listening, every year in the spring, property appraisals come out. There's a review process. Once all the reviews go through, There's basically a big bowl of money, and it's called the total taxable property value. And that's a big bowl of money. And all the different taxing entities are working on their budgets. Okay. So they're working on their budget, and you have the total taxable property value. Those are two math variables. The state kicks down multiple rates, a no new revenue rate, which is on the low end, and the voter approval tax rate. That's on the high end. That's your left and right lateral limits. And the taxing entities, based on their budget, will fall somewhere in the middle. If they go over it, they have to call a VOTRE or VATR, a voter approval tax rate election.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a low and a high lit that's set by the state, and it factors in growth. It factors in last year's budget. It factors in a percentage for inflation. So they have to fall somewhere in there. And the reality is they love to say that, oh, this has nothing to do with us. It's the appraisals why you're paying more. Nope. It's their budget going to the upper ends. And reality of it is, go ahead, John.
Okay. Now, to take the other side of the argument, I was involved with a small town, and their budget and their conundrum. It's a small town. It was poorly taken care of, very poorly taken care of by the city management for a while.
Godly's in that position now. They're making up for lost time.
Now,
Yes.
It was so poorly taken care of that all the businesses, save a grocery store and, well, one restaurant and some used furniture places stayed. So that town is DOA, right?
For sales tax, yeah, definitely.
I mean, Amazon's the only thing that kept them alive. Okay, so because Amazon pays in a lot of
Sales tax.
sales tax,
Sure.
right? So they are faced with a lot of developers wanting to come into the city and boost the tax base, but they have to be able to provide them water and sewer,
Correct.
or they have to build a big infrastructure themselves. So the money for the water and sewer has got to come from somewhere. So these cities, especially in the big expansion areas, are faced with a pretty daunting problem, and that is go find the money.
Sure.
And the easy way is to obfuscate things and play games, or hard bargaining. And I've watched some hard bargaining being done with developers.
Sure.
And so it's how you play the game, and you need to know the rules.
Well, and a great example of that was when we were at Burleson City Council meeting. They were raising some of their impact fees
Yes.
and fees for developers to tap into their electricity, their sewer, and stuff like that. So there's ways to do it. There's absolutely
I'm
ways
giving
to
you a
do it.
thumbs up,
Yeah.
because that's part of the answer.
Yes.
Is that if
It
somebody
is.
wants to move there and build a house, they got to pay a little bit more.
That's growth pays for growth.
And it's actually they're paying the residents there
Correct.
for their changes in their environment. In
And,
other
and
words-
you're controlling somewhat about the demographics that are moving in too. You're somewhat managing that, because you're creating an environment to where only a certain socioeconomic can go into that area, which can keep other values up and takes care of the community you have. And that may sound harsh, but that's a reality for where we live, so to speak. And there's long-term master plans that come into play. And we're kind of getting off topic a little bit.
a little bit,
A
but
little.
I just wanted to illuminate that just making ugly faces at the tax collectors is not the only part of the situation.
And to close out with your point, I think it's absolutely fair to say that past administrations or past elected officials, or the way things have been managed, will lead to this kind of having to play catch up. But the taxpayers and the people that are going out and casting their votes need to look at the administration that caused this, hold them accountable, and elect them out, and get some
that's
people in
part
there
of-
that are
That's part of the
gonna
reason we're
affect
so
some change.
popular.
Yeah,
Is
no, I
that
agree.
we're a new wave,
Yeah.
wave, and we're saying, I promise, I'll be square with you.
So let's get back onto this meeting about how you, Miss Lingo, were treated at the
Yes.
what was the big thing that was occurring at the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors last meeting? What's the big thing that they took action on?
Well, they were voting on the already written out, set up contract for the chief appraiser.
So to put that into perspective, the taxing entities had just elected a new board of directors, gave them a majority for up to, some will have a 1 year, some will have a 2 year term. So at the most 2 years, and the outgoing elected officials, the outgoing board of directors, they extended the chief appraisal's contract. The one big action that they take, how long did they extend that contract for?
3 years.
So they basically have
Nullified.
handcuffed your ability to do much about that without big penalty, basically hamstringing you guys right out of the gate. Is it fair to say that?
What was the penalty?
Look, I don't know what a standard chief appraiser's contract looks like. I intend to find out. I don't know if the one in Johnson County is the norm or if it's an outlier. We have to find that out. But one of the things they did, if you terminate them, it's not for cause, terminate by choice, they doubled the severance from 6 months to a year.
Yes.
At the meeting.
So
After I asked them to please shorten the length of the contract,
He did.
so that we, the incoming people, could have some say down the road once we're educated to what we're doing.
So to put this into perspective, you guys are going to be asked to work with the chief appraisal, and you guys oversee and manage him, basically, the chief
Mhm.
appraiser.
Yes.
You're responsible for his contract and him taking direction on how to appraise properties. And basically, the outgoing board of directors were so bitter, they pushed his contract longer than you guys. You guys will have to run for election again. They increased his salary 8% and made it twice as hard for you guys to remove him. Now, here's the reality of it. These individuals, Ms. Lingo, Mr. Goulding, and Mr. Wood, ran very specifically on doing the best by taxpayers. So if the chief appraiser was the most qualified individual, I'm sure that you guys would have given him a great contract.
Yes.
Is it fair to say that?
absolutely.
I absolutely
Like
would.
your goal was to assess, evaluate, and then determine who you had to work with, correct?
Right. I mean, because we don't know yet.
Yeah.
And he seems to be very on the ball. He's been there a long time. But it was not in our hands. It's not in our hands now.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but when they did that to me, that was a slap in every taxpayer's face in Johnson County.
It is.
And they gave him that raise. And I've been fighting extreme appraisals all this time because it's putting people out of their homes. And it made me ill inside. But they rewarded him for bringing in a lot of money.
Sure.
That's from extreme appraisals.
Well, the deal from my perspective is I would have expected they'd have the integrity to respect the process.
Yep.
The new board coming in and either vote no on this 3-year contract or vote to extend his existing contract for 3 months or 6 months till we get in and get seated. And understand boards do this all the time. School boards do it. Corporate boards do it. They put poison pills in. It's not unusual, but that doesn't make it right.
Correct. It
And
doesn't.
if I had been on that board on December 18th, I would have voted no on the 3-year contract. I would have voted to extend his existing contract for 3 to 6 months, one or the other, and give the new board an opportunity, and then I'd ride off into the sunset. That's the right thing to do.
Correct. Yeah, you guys gotta work with them.
That is my issue. They have operated for decades with no scrutiny from the taxpayers, no scrutiny from hardly anybody, and they've gotten used to it. They just do what they want to do. And we intend to bring a new approach to the CAD board.
Well, and to caveat on doing what you want to do, I watched you guys go to numerous city council meetings, commissioners court, numerous school board meetings, and flat out basically give them your resume, give them very specific reasons why you're qualified and why you're capable of doing this. And I watched at the very end the outgoing board of directors try to jump on the bandwagon, and they had absolutely nothing productive to provide to these taxing entities other than you should just vote for us because we've been here and know it better. And it had absolutely no involvement with that. So good on you guys for going above and beyond and thinking outside the box. So thank you for that.
And I didn't think outside of the box. How many times have you gone for an interview on a job? You got to give them a resume or they're not going to talk to you.
Actually, I watched the chief of police for Godly Police Department get assigned by the mayor because the chief, the police sergeant says, I'm qualified to be chief. And the mayor says, okay, and did it without council confirmation.
Wow.
So it does happen in other places too. Yeah, Chief Cantrell, absolutely shameful how you were hired. And here again, if he was the best man for the job, he could have went through the hiring process. So here again, this stuff is too common in these different entities. It's too common. Superintendent of Godly ISD just got an extension and a raise.
Yeah.
After a background check, let a convicted prostitute work all over in every committee. Every committee after a failed bond. I mean, and they did it behind closed doors, and they did it, and they let the lawyers drive the evaluation. Shameful. It's terrible. So terrible what they did to you guys. And I'm sorry. I'm getting excited because this stuff is crazy. It's absolutely insane how they do this stuff.
Okay. I am not a victim, though. I am not a victim.
Taxpayers are.
Don't,
The taxpayers
Yes, they are.
very well could be.
okay. And I'm not going to, I have no hard feelings against them. It made me sad at the moment. And I told him, I said, this saddens me. But honestly, I want to get along with everybody. I want to do my best, to do the best for the taxpayers. Now, there may be people that are smarter than me on that board. I imagine there is. But being rude is not nice.
I agree. I get rude. That's why I could never be an elected official.
Same here.
Never could be. I know my limits, and I couldn't do it.
Well, you know,
So good for you for staying above it.
this kind of stuff
better
goes-
men than I am.
This kind of stuff goes on in the corporate world, but you know what's different in the corporate world? They're not playing with taxpayer money.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You're right on the money.
And that's what people need to realize here. This is, you know, it's gotten to the point of literally theft by taxation. It's
I'm
crazy
telling
how
you.
out of control it is.
I've seen no respect for the taxpayer whatsoever in that last CAD board meeting.
Do you think any of them are going to try to run in May as candidates for the
I hope
people?
they do, because
I do too.
because I'm going to tell you what, these three and Amy, they don't need me no more. They're way smarter than I
No,
am.
we need to flex you to Parker and Hood counties now.
So I'm going to be backing off,
yeah, you're moving, Craig. You're moving.
and I'm going to be out working on our new candidates and to get them some reinforcements.
They're going to
Yeah.
need it. It sounds like they're going to need it.
And if we are successful at our mission of transparency, and we will be, I think there's a good chance it'll light a prairie fire in Texas because other counties are going to go, wait a minute, how come they're transparent and our CAD isn't? And so I think this model could be repeated again and again and again.
Well, I think, you know, I look at, you know, I follow school boards and city councils, and I see them like they go through budget workshops and stuff. What a great thing to get on the agenda, have a rep from the Central Appraisal District, you know, whether it's a board of directors or somebody else, go and give a brief presentation on their role, how the budget is actually affected by it, how the tax rates are, you know, how all this thing symbiotically works together to extract, you know, money from taxpayers.
And can I touch on one thing real
Sure.
quick that you said a few minutes ago? You said they get a no new revenue tax rate from the CAD. If a taxing entity adopts that no new revenue tax rate, that doesn't mean that their tax revenue doesn't go up. It still goes up. That only applies to existing properties.
Correct. And non-capital.
So
improved,
if
right?
you've got a piece of farmland, $100 a year in property tax because it's ag, and now a developer comes in, they're going to build 100 houses. All those houses, that tax is going to go sky high, and that's not part of the no new revenue tax rate. And at the rate of growth that we're experiencing in Johnson County, everybody's going to get increases in revenue, even if they adopt that no new revenue tax rate.
The school districts on these bond elections, they love to say growth will pay for growth. Growth will pay for growth. Growth will pay for growth. And the logical question, if you have any fundamentally sound, knowledge about this, is, well, why aren't you adopting a no new revenue rate then? Why, if you're going to try to sell taxpayers on growth pays for growth, why are you not selling a no new revenue rate? Because all your growth coming in is increased tax revenue, and you're not going to charge your taxpayers more. So that's a great point, bringing that up about the no new revenue rate. And they just got to get a handle on this process. And you know what? I hope I'm wrong in saying that. I think it's kind of been a little bit sleight of hand in the manipulation. I hope I'm wrong. I'll be the first one to come back, on my show and say, hey, I'm sorry. But thanks for joining us. Next week, Texas Transparency Project, John Wood, Duaine Goulding, Mr. Craig Hundley. Congratulate them. 18th January, they'll be being sworn in. Thanks, and have a great week, and Happy New Year.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because